And right now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He's a member of the Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committees. And as it pertains to the Judiciary Committee, I'm curious your thoughts about the verdict, the guilty verdicts yesterday.
Well, Joe, great to be on with you again. I think this was an important verdict. The Department of Justice invested a lot of resources in making sure that they brought and they won a charge against the leaders of the Oath Keepers for seditious conspiracy, not a common charge, and one that carries with it a significant potential jail term. As you've been saying in the earlier segments of this show, this puts to rest the argument that this was just some organic protest gone awry, that these were folks who were just a little wound up. They planned and they resourced and they tried to execute an intervention in the peaceful transfer of power here in our nation's capital. For those of us who were in the building that day, it was gravely concerning, some would say terrifying, as we watched the battle between armed protesters and Capitol Police that cost the lives of several police officers, shattered the perimeter of our building, and threatened the lives of both Vice President Pence and Speaker Pelosi. This was an appropriate outcome by an American jury.
Yeah, and so let me ask you now a question for your other committee on foreign relations. Iran, we've been talking about Iran today, the USA-Iran match yesterday, some of our concerns about the Iranian players. Let's just talk generally, though, where the United States stands in relation to the Iranian government, a government that is shooting young women in the street who are protesting. What's our view on Iran? What can we do?
Joe, Iran, we have hopes for the Iranian people, but we are clear-eyed that the Iranian regime is brutal and repressive. Hundreds of protesters all over the country have been killed. The Iranian regime has now publicly recognized more than 300 have been killed. The real number is almost certainly much higher than that. For decades, the United States has denounced the brutal human rights record of Iran internally and the ways in which they have been profoundly disruptive to the region by supporting proxies throughout the region, by sponsoring assassination attempts, by arming other groups that attack partners and allies of ours, from the Houthis to Hezbollah. So Iran is a country with which the United States has no diplomatic relations. We have tried to negotiate some way to constrain their nuclear program, but at the moment, the current Iranian regime and the United States have very little in common in our values, in our interests, in our direction. And I think it's important that we lift up the Iranian protesters. The Iranian soccer team did something quite brave, and it may well have consequences for them if and when they return to the Islamic Republic of Iran, because they were joining in recognizing the legitimacy of the protests of so many young people across Iran.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Senator, we're going to go to a member of our Morning Joe Mississippi delegation, Elise Jordan, who has a question for you.
Senator Coons, I just want to thank you for your continued advocacy for our Afghan allies who have been left stranded since the drawdown in Afghanistan. Can you give us an update on what the government is doing to help those Afghans who are over here in limbo, and is there progress on the Afghan Adjustment Act?
Thank you for that question and for your attention to this. So many veterans have reached out to me about this. Senator Klobuchar and I have been working with a bipartisan group of senators on trying to move forward an Afghan Adjustment Act. There's precedent for this. After the fall of South Vietnam, the United States brought tens of thousands of Vietnamese into our country. My home church, where I was raised, sponsored a family of Vietnamese refugees. They are those who we evacuated from Afghanistan are currently here under a 2-year humanitarian parole. We are trying through this bill to give them an opportunity to come forward and be individually vetted in person here in the United States to reinforce the security concerns that many of my colleagues have, and then give them a legal status here in the United States, an opportunity to be here securely and to pursue work opportunities, to build families here, to really join the American family. That's what happened to Vietnamese who came here and passed background vetting like this, and that's what's important for us to do now. Otherwise, tens of thousands of Afghans in this country who served alongside our troops bravely for years face the threat or the risk of deportation. There is no chance that we should force them to go back to face the Taliban. In fact, my office and I have been working on a specific case just this week of a family, parts of which are still in Afghanistan, where the Taliban are going to their home day after day trying to find an individual who was a critical part of our war effort there for 20 years.
Yeah, and those fighters and translators were promised that protection. So we will continue to cover that story. Want to ask you, Senator, about some history you all made in the Senate yesterday with the Respect for Marriage Act passing 61 to 36 with 12 Republican votes. We've been talking this morning about the evolution just in the last decade even on the issue of gay marriage. Now, 71% of Americans, according to Gallup, support that. That number was 27% in 1996. Can you speak to the significance as a practical matter of passing that, but also as a historic matter?
This is an historic action by the Congress of the United States to put in statute what previously had been protected by a Supreme Court decision. In one case, a decision, Loving versus Virginia, going back decades and decades, protecting interracial marriage. Another, based on the case Obergefell versus Hodges, that recognizes a right to same-sex marriage. When I first ran for the Senate 12 years ago, that was an open question. There was a lot of debate about it. It was something I was often asked on the campaign trail. I supported marriage equality then, but it wasn't yet the law of the land. Because of the Supreme Court's judicial activism, its aggression in overturning Roe versus Wade, and the opinion, written by Justice Thomas, opening the door to the possibility of reversing the protections of Obergefell and Loving, we needed to take this up and act. And I am grateful that it was broad and bipartisan, as you referenced, 61 votes. But the idea that the Supreme Court has rolled back long-settled rights to reproductive rights access put this at risk and meant we needed to act. The House will take it up, pass the Senate version, and send it to the President's desk next week. This provides some protection, a recognition that love is love here in the United States.
Senator Coons, good morning. Jonathan Lemire, turning back to your role on the Foreign Relations Committee. French President Emmanuel Macron is in town. He'll be honored at a state dinner tomorrow, the first of the Biden White House. And certainly there'll be notes of unity struck about Europe and the U.S. and their response to the war in Ukraine. But there's been some strain growing on the alliance, some tension here. Europeans upset about the Inflation Reduction Act, upset about economic issues, and divergence of opinions as to how and when perhaps that war should come to an end. What can be done to smooth over differences between Europe and the U.S.?
One of the most important things we can do is to meet with our close and trusted allies, to hear their concerns, and then do our best to work together. I think one of President Biden's greatest moments of leadership has been the way that he has pulled together our NATO allies, our European and Indo-Pacific allies in support of Ukraine as Ukraine fights back against Russian aggression in their territory. I recently had the chance to go to Kyiv and along with Senator Rob Portman of Ohio to present the Liberty Medal to President Zelensky, someone who I think has been an exceptional leader and who embodies the fighting spirit of the Ukrainian people. Our French allies have joined this effort and have provided robust military and humanitarian support. They are hosting Ukrainian refugees. We do have some points of difference on our views about domestic policy, industrial policy in particular, the incentives that our recently enacted bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, provides for electric vehicle manufacturing. I am co-hosting a lunch for President Macron today. I'm the co-chair of the French caucus. It'll be a conversation about biodiversity and conservation, an area where he has been a global leader and has convened important global meetings. We have areas of shared interest and a bedrock of shared values. The American Revolution would not have been successful without the assistance of the French and the French military. We are today engaged in a similar effort where countries, France, the United States, many others, leaders are helping the Ukrainians fight for their freedom and to secure their sovereignty. These deep ties will help this be a very productive visit. It is the first state dinner of the Biden presidency, and I'm very much looking forward to a series of important conversations with President Macron of France.
Boy, you wear a lot of hats. Co-chair of the French caucus. Who knew? Senator Chris
Who knew?
Coons, Democrat of Delaware. Senator, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. John.